She said she was too busy for a relationship while secretly planning a wedding with someone else. Throwaway, because she knows my main. I met Lena in a neighborhood coffee shop in late spring, when the city just stopped pretending to be cold. I was grading papers with my headphones on and a croissant I'd abandoned to the birds outside. She slid into the only open seat across from me with the kind of apologetic smile people use when they want something small but don't want to become a story. 15 minutes, she said, gesturing at the charger. Her phone was at 2%. Mine was on a power bank. I offered it without thinking. She laughed at my stickered battery and said, "You're prepared for the end times." I didn't know she was too, just differently. We talked over the hiss of milk foam like people who've been tired too long. She worked in non-profit events, which sounded noble until I learned events meant 3 calendars and phone calls at midnight because someone's sponsor wanted a different logo placement. She liked small, precise things. Mint tea over coffee, essays that used the semicolon correctly, firefighters' dogs on Instagram. I liked the way she said my name like she was tasting it. Evan, as if she was deciding whether to put it on a list. When she handed me my power bank back, there was a faint, paler stripe on her ring finger that I didn't register until later. We drifted into the evening together without planning it. A walk up to the overlook, her jacket thrown over her shoulders, the city making a necklace out of taillights. At the corner, when the light went red, she said it like ripping off a label. "I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm busy, like, truly. I don't have the bandwidth." She said bandwidth the way some people say boyfriend. Heavy, rehearsed, a word she'd had to defend before. In my head, I shrugged. I wasn't looking for an epic. I didn't even know what I was looking for. "I like talking to you," I said instead, and she smiled like we'd just both found a loophole. We made a rule that wasn't a rule. See each other when we could. Keep it light. No pressure. No pressure was an air mattress in the guest room of a life you swore you weren't moving into. The first weeks were the color of early evenings. We'd meet after her chaotic days for walks by the river. A gelato eaten too fast on a bench. Half a movie in my living room because she needed to leave at 10. Her phone lived on Do Not Disturb, with a solemnity I didn't question. "If my donors see the typing bubble," she joked, "they smell weakness." She'd take it face down. But when it buzzed 3 times in a row, she'd glance and say, "Sorry, vendor drama." Once, when she used my bathroom, I noticed a tiny fleck of green on her sleeve cuff that smelled like eucalyptus when I rubbed it clean. "We had a decor meeting," she said later, sniffing the air. "It gets into your clothes." I believed her because it was easy. I learned her patterns. Tuesdays were budget hell. Fridays were no sleep. Sundays, she disappeared into brunches that were work adjacent. When she was with me, she was very with me. Attentive, funny, looping back to ask about some throwaway comment I'd made the week before. She added songs to a shared playlist she named Only If We Have Time, and the title made me feel both included and preemptively excused. At 11:11 one night, she called and said, "Are you still up? I need to hear your voice for 2 minutes. I just had to talk someone off a ledge." She meant metaphorical ledge. I checked. We did not talk about feelings. We complimented each other's timing. Maya, who has watched me pick at almost relationships like scabs, said, "If someone wants you in their life, you don't become the intermission." I told her it wasn't like that. Lena had told me the truth. The honesty was the point. "Honesty about a closed door is still a closed door," Maya said, exhaling over the phone. I didn't want to hear it. I liked our specificness. How Lena could tell the difference between jasmine and osmanthus, tea by smell. How she always sat with one foot tucked under her like she belonged in places. How she refused to let her food die in transit. And so we ate still warm noodles on the hood of my car in a parking lot under violet clouds. I liked the careful line we pretended to walk. 2 small things happened that stuck in my head like burrs. The first was a glint on her hand when she reached for the gear shift in my car. Not a ring exactly, but the ghost of one. A tan line shaped like absence. She flipped her hand palm up as if to stretch, and the pale circle vanished. The second was when she forgot her coat at my place and I hung it by the door. The next morning, when I brought it to her building, something paper-thin slid from the pocket. It was a receipt, soft from handling. Verdant Garden Floral Company. Order, rehearsal botanicals. L&A. I turned it over, heat in my face like I'd read a diary. A scribble in blue ink said, 12 stems eucalyptus, 8 white ranunculus. Keep cool. I slid it back where I'd found it and pretended I hadn't. When I handed her the coat, I said something small. "You left your armor." And she laughed. Is it weird to love my coat more than some people? Then, like she'd rehearsed the shape of it, "We're doing a donor dinner. The venue's extra. They love foliage." She rolled her eyes in a kind way, and I let the explanation settle. It made sense. She was in events. There are rehearsals, botanicals, initials that weren't ours. I wanted to be the man who didn't make ordinary things significant. Being low maintenance was a personality of mine that had never saved me. There were near kisses like the city kept nudging us. In line for croissants, her shoulder bumped mine, and for one frictionless second she leaned without moving away. On the metro, when a man stumbled and I caught the pole, her fingers brushed mine and stayed there longer than you could call it accidental. We had a night with thunder when the power flickered, and she sat cross-legged on my rug, listening to rain and telling me about childhood summers at a lake with a dock that pinched toes. When it cleared, she checked her phone and said she had an early morning. "You always do," I said, smiling. "I always do," she said, not smiling back. On a Wednesday, we tried to watch a movie in a theater, but the projector went. So we ended back at the coffee shop where we'd met. The barista knew her order. Mint tea with the bag in. Lena loosened when she talked to strangers. She was easy in the world. She reached into her tote and pulled out 2 napkins, setting one under my cup, one under hers, aligning them like puzzle pieces. She checked her phone, DND, that little moon icon like a secret, and then turned it over. "When I'm with you, I like to be with you," she said, and something unhelpful in me warmed. We walked to her car under the pear trees that drop more petals than they can afford. A scrap of fabric peeked from her tote, swatches attached to a card with a neat handwriting of someone paid to care about texture. "For centerpieces," she said before I asked. "For a friend's wedding." I'm helping her not choose beige. She fanned the squares like taro, sage, peony pink, a linen that had the color of old paper. "Don't pick beige," I said, and she grinned and said, "Never." When she dropped me off, she rolled the window down and said, "Text me when you get in." The car's interior smelled faintly of eucalyptus again, like the idea of clean. I taught my mouth not to ask the questions it wanted to ask. At home, I sent a picture of my front door like proof of life. She responded with a screenshot of our playlist, the song she was adding titled, "If I Wanted To" by a singer I didn't know. I listened and pretended I didn't understand the joke. I fell asleep on the couch with the TV asking if I was still watching. Sometime after midnight, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I half woke, thumbed the screen, squinted. There was a new email at the top of my inbox that didn't belong to me, like a postcard addressed to the wrong apartment. Subject, "Final headcount confirmed," from Joe, Verdant Garden Venue. It was forwarded, and above the gray line was a single sentence that made my throat go dry. "Hi, Lena. Just confirming the tasting for L&A this Saturday. Please bring your fiancé if he's available." Underneath, like a stamp you can't scrape off, sat her name and her signature block, the cursor still blinking in my reply field. I stared at the email like my brain was trying to rearrange the words into something else. Final headcount. Tasting. Fiancé. L&A. My first instinct was that it had to be a mistake. A wrong address. A spam that somehow borrowed her name. But it came from her inbox and landed in mine because she had forwarded it. Not to me specifically, but maybe by hitting the wrong line in her contacts. I sat there at 1 a.m., the glow of the TV screen showing me a quiz show host smiling, while my pulse thudded in my temples. The next morning, I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe she was planning something for someone else. Event coordinators deal with fiancé and head counts all the time, right? I even rehearsed that explanation for myself before texting her good morning. She answered with a sleepy selfie from bed, hair tangled, blanket pulled up to her chin, captioned, "5 more mins." If she was hiding something, she was either a world-class actor or so comfortable lying that her body didn't even twitch. I buried it. I told myself Maya was wrong. I told myself this wasn't my first time overthinking. A week later, I found the second burr. It was raining, and she wore that same coat, the heavy gray one with deep pockets. She hung it in my hallway, and when I went to shift it aside, something slipped again. Another receipt. This one crisp. Verdant Garden Floral Company again. L&A Rehearsal Botanicals. Date. Upcoming Saturday. Quantity. Eucalyptus stems. Ranunculus. Hydrangeas. I stared at the order until my eyes blurred. When she saw me with it, she smiled too quickly. "Client project," she said. "I told you, nonprofit, donors, events, they're obsessed with theme." She plucked the paper back like it might burn me. "I hate flowers personally," she added. But she didn't look like she hated them. That night, I called Maya. I told her everything, right down to the smell of eucalyptus and the initials. She was quiet, then said, "Evan, Google it. If it's a wedding, they probably have a site. Couples love that stuff." My stomach nodded, but I did it. I typed Verdant Garden Wedding L&A into the search bar. The second result was a link to a wedding registry on a popular site. It asked for a password. I tried a guess. Her dog's name. The page opened like a lock clicking, and there she was. A photo of Lena, smiling at the camera, standing next to a man whose arms circled her waist. The caption, "Celebrating the love story of Lena and Adam." My throat went dry. The bio said they'd met 3 years ago. The timeline overlapped with when she and I first shared a walk along the river. I clicked through images. Engagement shoot in a park, her hand with a ring, His grin. I'd never seen her smile like that, not once with me. On the registry was a set of pans with perfect for Sunday brunches and towels monogrammed L and A. I took screenshots of everything, my fingers shaking. Then I closed the browser like it might catch fire. The next time I saw her, I almost cracked right away. She came over late, hair damp from a shower, carrying a box of pastries. Peace offering, she said, for bailing last weekend. I wanted to ask, bailing on me or on Adam? Instead, I asked if she wanted tea. She told me about her work week, the donors, the chaos. She laughed and nudged me with her knee. When she leaned her head on my shoulder, I felt my whole body stiffen. I saw the ring on that website. I saw the date circled for the wedding. I saw her in white. I didn't lean back. After she left, I scrolled the screenshots again and again, zooming in on her hand, her smile. The man who clearly thought he had a future. My chest hurt in a way I hadn't expected. Not just from betrayal, but from the knowledge that she'd told me exactly what she wanted. She had told me she was too busy, and I'd believed it was temporary, when the truth was she was already claimed, already promised, already halfway down an aisle I'd never see. I tried to tell myself it wasn't my business. We weren't official. She hadn't lied outright, had she? But the receipts in her coat pocket didn't belong to donors. The wedding website didn't belong to a friend. She had woven me into the margins of her schedule while she was planning a whole different life in bold print. 2 days later, fate shoved the truth into my face again. I ran into her at the grocery store, both of us reaching for the same brand of coffee. She laughed, surprised, leaned up and kissed my cheek. Her cart held nothing but sparkling water and a stack of bridal magazines shoved halfway under. I pretended I didn't see them. Budget meeting? I asked, voice cracking. Always, she said smoothly. She kissed my cheek again and left me in the aisle, heart pounding. That night I dreamed of eucalyptus. Whole rooms filled with it, suffocating, like the smell itself was telling me I'd been fooled. I woke up to my phone buzzing. A message from Maya. A link. Look, she wrote. I clicked. It was a Facebook post from someone tagged in a photo. So excited to celebrate Lena and Adam's upcoming big day at Verdant Garden. The caption ended with a hashtag of their initials. My hands shook as I scrolled. The photo was of a save-the-date magnet stuck to a fridge. The date was less than a month away. I called Lena the next day. I wanted to hear her voice when she lied. She picked up on the second ring, cheerful. Hey stranger, survived Monday? I swallowed hard. Lena, are you getting married? Silence, then a laugh, low and disbelieving. What? Number. God, Evan. Number. I told you I don't want a relationship. Where is this coming from? I told her about the receipt, about the website, about the Facebook post. She sighed like I'd disappointed her. You really think you know better than me about my own life? That's hurtful. I'm helping my cousin. She's hopeless at planning. She used my photos as a joke once. I told her not to. Please don't read into it. Her tone was calm, reasonable, like I was the crazy one. You're important to me, she added, softening. Don't ruin this with paranoia. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to delete the screenshots. Tell Maya she was wrong. Tell myself I was safe. But her calm felt rehearsed. Too smooth. Like she'd practiced it in the mirror. And that night, when she came over to apologize for snapping, she left her phone face down on the counter. The screen lit up once, twice. I saw the name, Joe. Verdant Garden, and below it, unreadable text that began with, final tasting schedule. I told myself I was going to let it go. That was the line I repeated like a chant. She said no. She said she's not in a relationship. She said she's helping a cousin. But every time I looked at her, I saw flashes of the registry photos. Her hand wearing a ring, her face leaning into a man whose name I knew but couldn't say aloud. It poisoned small moments. When she laughed at a dumb pun, I thought, does Adam get the real version of this laugh? When she tucked her hair behind her ear, I thought, who else has memorized this gesture? I couldn't hold anything without it crumbling in my hands. Still, I tried. We went to the pier one night for street tacos and she teased me for drowning mine in salsa. She hooked her arm through mine as we walked back and leaned her head on my shoulder. You're easy, she murmured. I wanted to believe that meant safe. Cherished. But all I heard was temporary. I didn't kiss her. I didn't even squeeze her hand. I was too busy wondering where she would be tomorrow night, and with whom. Maya didn't let up. She's gaslighting you, Ev, she said over FaceTime, holding up her mug like a gavel. You show her proof and she calls you paranoid? That's textbook. She's keeping you on the hook until she doesn't need you anymore. I argued. I said Lena had been honest from the start about not wanting anything serious. Honest about boundaries doesn't excuse lying about context, Maya snapped. You deserve more than being someone's layover. I wanted to yell, but all I could do was nod and change the subject. The next slip was her phone. She came over late with tiramisu in a plastic container from a bakery. Don't say I never bring peace offerings, she grinned, kicking off her shoes. We ate on the floor, laughing about how neither of us could slice it cleanly. Her phone buzzed face down, lit up with the preview. Joe, Verdant Garden. Final tasting schedule attached. My eyes locked on the words like they were engraved. She noticed. She grabbed the phone, flipped its screen down again. Vendors never stop, she sighed. Then she leaned in close and kissed the corner of my mouth like it was enough to distract me. For a moment, I let it. For a moment, I let my lips chase hers and my body forget the pit in my stomach. But later, when she left, I sat alone and replayed that notification in my head until sunrise. A few days later, fate pushed harder. I was at an electronics store picking up a replacement charger. In the next aisle, I heard a voice, steady and warm, asking about microphones. I peeked around and froze. It was him. I didn't know Adam in person, but I'd seen his face on that registry page enough to recognize him instantly. He was taller than I'd imagined, neat beard, button-down shirt tucked in. He was laughing with the clerk, saying, "Yeah, it's for the rehearsal dinner speech. I just want it to sound good, you know?" He pulled out his card, and I saw the receipt print with his last name, the same initial A from all those receipts and websites. My stomach lurched. He walked past me without a glance, humming. He looked like a man in love, preparing to celebrate. I felt like I'd been punched. That night, I confronted her again. I couldn't hold it anymore. I showed her the screenshot of the registry, the receipt, told her I'd seen Adam. Her face didn't crack. She just inhaled sharply like she'd practiced even that. "You're obsessed," she said quietly. "You're creating connections that don't exist. Do you even hear yourself? You're stalking me." I reeled back. "I'm not." "Lena, you forwarded me the email. It came from you." She shook her head, smiling sadly, like I was a child who couldn't do math. "You think you know everything, but you don't. I told you I can't do a relationship right now, and you're punishing me for that." Her words slithered under my skin. For a moment, I wondered if I was crazy, if maybe I'd invented this whole conspiracy because I wanted her too much. She put her hand on my cheek, soft, warm. "You matter to me," she whispered. "But you can't keep doing this. You're going to ruin the only good thing we have." Then she kissed me full, slow, desperate. I let her. I hated myself for letting her. But when she left that night, my chest ached with guilt and suspicion tangled into one knot. The next morning, I tried to breathe it out, tried to focus on work. But in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, I noticed something on the counter where she'd left her bag the night before. A small appointment card. Embossed letters. Serafina Bridal. Fitting. Saturday, 3 p.m. My breath hitched. She hadn't even bothered to hide it this time. The lie sat there, glossy and smug. I didn't tell her I found it. I just slid it back under her wallet when I returned the bag. She kissed my forehead, thanked me for coffee, left humming. I stared after her, sick with the knowledge that she was spinning a web and I was the fly already paralyzed. That weekend, the universe twisted the knife. A mutual friend invited me to a small get-together. I almost didn't go, but something in me wanted air. When I arrived, I froze. On the fridge in the kitchen, right at eye level, was a save-the-date magnet. White cursive letters. Lena and Adam. Verdant Garden, July 17th. A smiling photo of them together, arms wrapped, future glowing. My friend laughed when they saw my face. "Oh yeah, isn't that sweet?" "She's so lucky," I mumbled something. Fled to the bathroom, locked the door. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the magnet, stared until my vision blurred. I left early, heart hammering, ears buzzing. Outside, the summer air was thick, and all I could hear was her voice. "You're paranoid. You'll ruin the only good thing we have." But the magnet didn't lie. The registry didn't lie. The receipts didn't lie. The only liar in this story was the one who kept kissing me goodnight. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my couch with a photo of that magnet burning holes in my phone screen. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the date in looping cursive, July 17th, just a couple of weeks away. The timeline wasn't abstract anymore. It had a day circled on a calendar, a countdown ticking down while she sat across from me, drinking tea and laughing at my bad jokes. By the morning, I knew I had to stop pretending. I gathered everything. Screenshots of the wedding site, the registry, the receipt from her coat, the photo of the magnet. I stared at them lined up like evidence in a trial. It felt ugly, like I was prosecuting someone I wanted to love. But I needed to see it laid out to believe myself, to remind myself I wasn't insane. That afternoon, she came over unannounced, holding iced coffees. "Peace treaty," she smiled. She had that glow like she always did when she'd just showered. Hair damp, skin flushed. She sat on the edge of my couch and asked what I was working on. My chest ached at how normal it sounded. I told her I needed to talk. "Okay," she said easily, sipping. "Talk." I showed her the screenshots. Every single one. The registry, the receipt, the magnet photo. I didn't say anything at first, just let her look. She stared, unreadable, then let out a short laugh. "Wow, you really went deep, huh? This is intense." "Lena," I said, my voice cracking, "you're getting married in 2 weeks." She shook her head, almost pitying. "You're twisting things." I told you I was helping my cousin. You're making me out to be some kind of villain. My hands were shaking. Your cousin doesn't have your tattoo. Your cousin doesn't have your dog in the engagement photos. Your cousin's not named Lena. Her jaw tightened for the first time. But then she leaned back, calm again. Evan, do you hear yourself? You sound obsessed. Do you want to ruin this? Do you want to drive me away? Because this is exactly how you do it. That broke something in me. I realized in that moment she wasn't going to admit anything. Not because I was wrong, but because the lie was too big to let collapse. She couldn't tell the truth without tearing down the whole facade she'd built. And she'd rather gaslight me into thinking I was crazy than face the wreckage. I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. She blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I mean, I can't be part of this, whatever this is. You don't get to tell me I'm imagining things while you're fitting wedding dresses. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked almost panicked for a second, then smoothed it over. So that's it? You're throwing this away? This was never mine to throw away, I said. My voice felt like it belonged to someone braver. She grabbed her bag, angry now. Fine. Be dramatic, but don't come crawling back when you realize you blew up the best thing you had. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frames on my wall. I sat there shaking. Relief and grief mixed into one unsteady wave. For hours I didn't move, just stared at the spot where she'd been standing. Later that night I called Maya. I told her everything, every word of the fight. She was quiet for a long time, then said, "You know what you have to do." I did know. The question was whether I had the guts. Adam deserved to know before he married her, but telling him felt like stepping into a fire. He could hate me, accuse me of lying, or, worst of all, not believe me. I kept picturing his face in that electronics store, humming happily while buying a microphone for his speech. A man planning to toast his own future, not knowing it was already cracking. Evan, Maya said softly, this isn't about revenge. It's about consent. He can't consent to marry someone who's lying to him. You don't have to save him, but you can give him the truth. I lay awake most of the night turning her words over. Truth. Revenge. Responsibility. My head hurt with it. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I drafted an email. Kept it short. Simple. No insults. No bitterness. Just the facts. Screenshots attached. A note. I don't want to hurt you. I don't expect anything from this. But I thought you should know before your wedding. Do what you will with it. My finger hovered over send for 10 full minutes. Then I pressed it and felt my chest collapse. For hours there was silence. I went about my day in a haze, waiting for some explosion. Around sunset my phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. The text read, "I got your email. Can we talk? Adam." My pulse went wild. I typed back yes. And in that moment the ground shifted, because now this wasn't just my burden to carry. It was his too. And together, we were about to unravel whatever story she'd tried so hard to script. Meeting Adam felt like walking into the last chapter of a book I hadn't meant to read. We agreed to talk in a neutral place, a quiet cafe tucked away from the main street. He was already there when I arrived, sitting with a black coffee untouched in front of him. His eyes found me instantly, and I could see in them the same storm that had been tearing through me for weeks. "Evan?" he asked, voice steady but clipped. "Yeah," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. For a moment, we just sat there in silence, two strangers bound by the same woman. Finally, he pulled out his phone, opened my email, and tapped one of the screenshots. "This is her. This is my Lena." His voice broke on her name. I nodded. My throat felt raw. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to be the one to tell you. But I couldn't let you walk into—" He raised a hand, stopping me. "You did the right thing." His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. I thought I was crazy these past few months. She was distant. Always busy. I thought it was just wedding stress. I exhaled hard. That's what she told me too. Busy. His eyes burned into me. How long? A few months, I admitted. She said she didn't want a relationship. I thought it was casual. I didn't know about you until the receipts, the website, the magnet. By the time I realized I was already, I stopped. There was no good way to say it. He leaned back, rubbing his face with both hands. For a long moment, I thought he might yell or hit me or storm out, but he just sighed. "We're supposed to have our rehearsal dinner tomorrow night." The words hit me like a slap. Tomorrow. That close. "I'm sorry," I whispered again, though it sounded useless. He nodded slowly, then stood. "I need to handle this." He placed a hand on my shoulder, heavy, final. "Thank you for being honest. Most people wouldn't." And then he walked out, leaving his coffee untouched. The next 24 hours were agony. I kept expecting Lena to show up at my door, furious, demanding how I dared interfere. But she didn't. The silence was worse. Then, on the night of what should have been their rehearsal dinner, my phone lit up with her name. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was a blade. "What did you do?" "I told him the truth," I said quietly. You've ruined everything, she hissed. Do you understand that? I told you you were paranoid. And you still, her breath caught. She was crying now, but the kind of tears that sounded more like rage than sorrow. You couldn't just leave it alone, could you? You were going to marry him, I said, my voice rising. You were going to stand in front of your family, your friends, and promise forever while you were lying to both of us. How was I supposed to leave that alone? Silence. Then she whispered, low and venomous, I hope you're proud of yourself. The line went dead. I sat there shaking. Phone clutched in my hand. My chest felt hollow. I wanted to throw up, to run, to sleep for a week. Instead, I poured a glass of water and waited for the next shoe to drop. It came in the form of another text, this one from Adam. Just one line. I called the venue. It's off, thank you. I read it a dozen times, each word sinking in slowly. He had canceled the wedding. The lie was over. In the days that followed, I heard fragments through mutual friends. That the rehearsal dinner had never happened. That guests were being called. Vendors canceled. Deposits lost. That Lena had gone to stay with her sister. I didn't know what she told people. I didn't ask. She tried to reach out once more. An email that started with, I just want to explain, but quickly spiraled into blaming me for sabotaging her happiness. I didn't reply. I archived it without finishing. For the first time in months, my phone was quiet. Maya came over the next evening with takeout and a bottle of cheap wine. She listened as I told her everything. When I was done, she raised her glass. To boundaries, she said. I clinked mine against hers. My hands were still trembling, but lighter somehow. To boundaries? And as the night wore on, I realized something. The worst part wasn't losing Lena. It was realizing how much of myself I had given away to someone who never intended to give anything back. The truth had broken everything, but it had also set me free. It took weeks for the silence to feel like peace instead of punishment. At first, I woke up every morning braced for her name on my screen. A knock at my door, some new twist in the story. But nothing came. No late-night texts, no playlists added to, no peace offerings in the form of pastries or iced coffees, just absence. And slowly, I started to realize absence could be a gift. I went back to the coffee shop where I'd first met her, not to chase ghosts, but because it was my place before it was ours. I ordered my usual, sat by the window, and watched the world move without me for a while. The barista asked if I wanted to charge my phone. I almost laughed. I thought about that first afternoon, the way Lena had leaned across the table with a smile that felt like an invitation and a warning all at once. For the first time, the memory didn't sting. It was just a moment, no longer a wound. Maya kept me anchored. She reminded me to eat when the weight of it all stole my appetite, dragged me to the gym when I would have stayed under the covers, called just to tell me stories about her cat until I was laughing again. You're not broken, she said one night, holding my gaze across the kitchen table. You just learned the hard way that someone else's lies don't define your worth. I wrote those words down and taped them above my desk. One evening, weeks after everything unraveled, I ran into Jo, the wedding planner whose name had haunted my nightmares through notifications and receipts. I recognized her in line at the grocery store, juggling flowers and sparkling water. My first instinct was to duck, but she spotted me. Her eyes flickered with recognition, and for a second I expected blame. Instead, she just gave me a small, knowing nod. Good thing the truth came out when it did, she said quietly. Better now than later, I nodded back, unable to find words. It was enough. I started reclaiming my time. I picked up my old guitar, the one gathering dust in the corner. My fingers were clumsy, but the music came back in fragments, familiar and grounding. I went running along the river where she and I used to walk, but this time with music blasting in my ears, drowning out memories with rhythm. I booked a short trip out of town. Just me, a backpack, and a notebook. On the train, I wrote for the first time in months. Not about her, but about myself, my future. The kind of love I would one day want and actually deserve. I didn't bump into Lena again, though part of me expected I might. I heard whispers through mutuals. She was staying with her sister, avoiding questions, telling people the wedding fell apart because of stress. Maybe that was her truth now. It didn't matter. For once, I wasn't chasing her narrative. The last loose end was Adam. He texted me one final time, weeks later. Just a simple line. I appreciate what you did. It hurt, but I'm glad I know. Take care of yourself. I stared at it for a long time, then replied, you too. That was the end. The real ending, though, came one quiet morning back at that coffee shop. I was reading when someone new asked if the seat across from me was taken. She smiled shyly, holding a book instead of a phone. I said, go ahead, and that was all. No sparks, no destiny, just two strangers sharing space. It was ordinary, and it felt right. If you told me months ago that the best thing I'd get out of this whole ordeal was myself back, I wouldn't have believed you. But that's what it was. I had lost someone who never truly wanted me, and in the process, I found myself again. TL, DR, dated a woman who said she was too busy for a relationship. Turned out she was secretly engaged and planning a wedding with another man. I discovered receipts, a wedding website, and even a save the date with her face on it. When I confronted her, she gaslit me, but I gathered proof and told her fiancé. He canceled the wedding. She blamed me, but the truth was hers to own. I walked away, and now I'm finally free. And learning that sometimes the happiest ending is just getting your own life back.